Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How a Complete Set of Software and Validation Tools for Microplate Readers Can Help GMP/GLP Labs Meet FDA Data Integrity Guidelines. I am Michelle Ashton of Laboratories, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. Today's educational web seminar is presented by Laboratories and brought to you by Molecular Devices. To learn more about our sponsor, please visit www.moleculardevices.com. Now let's get started. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that this event is interactive. We encourage you to participate by submitting as many questions as you want at any time you want during the presentation. To do so, simply type them into the Ask a Question box and click Send. We'll answer as many questions as we have time for at the end of the presentation. If you have trouble seeing or hearing the presentation, click on the Support tab found at the top right of the presentation window, or report your problem by clicking on the Ask a Question box located on the far left of your screen. This presentation is educational and thus offers continuing education credits. Please click on the Continuing Education Credits tab located at the top right of the presentation window and follow the process to obtain your credits. I now present today's speaker, Dr. Thomas Hengstl, Software Product Manager at Molecular Devices, and Sally Higham, Account Manager at Molecular Devices. For the complete biographies on our speakers, please visit the Biography tab at the top of your screen. Our speakers will now begin their presentations.
So thank you, Michelle, for the nice introduction, and welcome everyone to today's webinar about software compliance for microplate readers in GMP and GLP labs. So this webinar is going to be about SoftMax Pro, Molecular Devices product for compliance. And we are doing this webinar in regards to the Windows 7 end of life, which is approaching in January 2020. So the menu for today is an overview about SoftMax Pro Standard and GxP for all of our attendees who have not used our software. Then we will go in detail into the new features of our SoftMax Pro 7.1. And as a third part, my colleague Sally will introduce you to our complete compliance offering, because compliance on a microplate reader system does not only rely on the software, but there is also a wealth of service products that are focusing on our hardware side. So let's get started right away with a brief introduction about what SoftMax Pro is. So SoftMax Pro is Molecular Devices multi-mode reader control software. And SoftMax Pro really does three things. It's a project management tool, so you can use our software to manage your complete project, every single experiment. Then it's obviously also the data acquisition part, where you type in your wavelengths, your bandwidth, and so on. And finally, when you have acquired the data, it also serves you as a data analysis program with a capability comparable to, for instance, Prism. SoftMax Pro offers you an interface to your automation, and it also provides an interface to your LIMS system with elaborate import and export capabilities. So if you have a brief look at the software itself, on the left-hand side, you can see the project management section. So all the experiments you're doing in a project on our multi-mode readers, you can gather in a single file. That helps you to keep the overview about the experiments that have been done. Second, you use it as a data acquisition software. So you type in your parameters, you define your plate format, you define the wavelength, the bandwidth, and maybe even a kinetic cycle. After you've acquired the data, SoftMax Pro offers you a wealth of data analysis tools, for instance, curve fits, standard deviations, and even more elaborate statistical tools, as for instance, outlier tests. For our users and customers in compliance labs that have to follow guidelines such as the FDA 21 CFR Part 11, SoftMax Pro GxP basically adds an additional layer of security and protection around SoftMax Pro standard. While the control tools remain the same, we now add our compliance features, which are user administration, system audit trail, e-signatures, document status in 7.1, validation package, and an SQL database. So a very brief overview about the features, which we will have a look in detail after this presentation. Number one is the difference to SoftMax Pro standard is that we are storing documents in a SQL database. The reason for that is because it allows us to keep full control of what's happening to the file. So we basically create a closed system here. We add the capability of adding electronic signatures and statements to documents, as well as the inbuilt user administration, which you can also add to the Windows Active Directory system, and an elaborate system audit trail that records everything that is done in the software in detail. The document workflow system is new in 7.1, and it strives toward establishing a paperless system in your company where you can basically develop a protocol, use it, and approve it without needing to establish a paper trail for that. We will have a look at that in detail also later. So what are all the new features in SoftMax Pro 7.1? And more importantly, why do we even have a new SoftMax Pro 7.1? The features not only extend to the GxP part, but also to the standard. But in this presentation, we will mostly focus on the GxP features. So in 2016, a new data integrity guideline was released by the FDA. This was a proposal and it was finalized in 2018, but the changes were very minor. So this is why we refer to it as the 2016 integrity guideline. Direct quotes from this guideline are that backup data is exact and complete, secure from alteration, inadvertent erasures or loss should be prevented, and the output should be checked for accuracy. Furthermore, data should be stored to prevent deterioration or loss, documented at a time of performance. This refers to raw data. And the records should be reviewed for accuracy, completeness, and compliance with the established standards. And finally, they should be checked, verified, and reviewed. This is a very elaborate guideline, and I'm not going to explain every detail. What I'm explaining the rest of the presentation is how the individual requests from this guideline are addressed in SoftMax Pro 7.1. So first of all, as I mentioned, files are stored in a Microsoft SQL database. On the right side, you see a picture how the file system looks in this database. And as you notice, it doesn't look that much different from a regular Windows file system. Our software developers have done their best to basically adapt the look and feel of the database to a Windows file system to make the switch over as easy and comfortable as possible. But the benefits of storing files in a database are actually striking. Because in previous versions, the files were stored in a Windows file-based system. You had to apply third-party tools to monitor renaming of the files, deletion, and also moving. By storing files in the database, you can keep complete control over files that are being deleted, and you can set permissions to delete files. So pretty much everything that is done, that has been done on a Windows level, can now be done within SoftMax Pro. This establishes a closed system and massively reduces the support from your local IT department because file permissions are now controlled within SoftMax Pro and GxP admin. The system audit trail allows you to record everything that is happening in SoftMax Pro in a very close detail. So if a new table is created, if a user logs in, pretty much anything that is happening in your SoftMax Pro system is recorded in the audit trail. The audit trail itself is also stored in the SQL database and is not document-based anymore. So all data goes into the database where it is securely stored from alteration. So you don't need any more third-party tools. To keep the overview, we have extensive filtering options, so you can filter by event, by user, by time, and by document. Now, the core piece of our workflow system, of our new version, is the workflow system. It provides the basis for a paperless system. It helps the QC and the lab manager to see at which stage a document is and what the next steps are. And it helps to prevent that lab technicians are using documents that are still under development. So how does the system now work? I will start on the very left-hand side. A typical document lifecycle is that a scientist within a company develops the protocol. So this scientist will develop the data acquisition part and the data analysis method. Additionally, as with the paper document where you add signature lines, we add statements. The statements indicate who should sign basically the statement and for what reason. So the scientist would add 4 statements in this example, which are getting signed all the way till the end of the document lifecycle. After the scientist has set everything up, we change the status now to review pending. In the review pending status, the lab manager can review the document. As you see, statement 1 is already signed. This means that the document is protected, indicated by the little P in the status. If the lab manager would like to change something, he changes the status back to in work, and the scientist can correct it. If the document now is reviewed and complete, he would change the lab manager would add his signature to statement number 2, proving that he has reviewed the document and promoted to reviewed. For simplicity, the next step is also conducted by the lab manager, but could in theory be conducted by, for instance, the QC department. The QC department then would basically open the document in the reviewed status and would release it. There is a separate button in SoftMax Pro to release the document. At the same time, if this is an existing document, one could theoretically outdate the previous version. The green document in the middle is now the released status. We have built in another level of security, which is the permission generate compliance data. If you would like to move from the left side to the right side into the compliance area, you need to have this permission. And in theory, only the lab technician should have that. So once the lab technician basically opens up a copy of the release document, statement number 2 and number 1 are moving to the audit trail, making the document editable in terms of being able to add data. What the lab tech can do within this document is tightly controlled by the permissions. So now the lab tech would essentially acquire the data and sign the 3rd statement, proving that he was the one who acquired the data. The lab manager then once again would open up the document and review it. Please note that whenever a statement is signed, so a signature is added to a document, it is automatically protected, so nobody can modify it anymore. Finally, the lab manager would sign the fourth statement proving that he has reviewed the data and the document is approved. In order to maintain such a workflow system, one needs a user administration. Because to maintain this workflow system, we need an administrator who creates the individual accounts. We need a scientist, a lab manager, and a lab technician, who all have different roles and permissions. As well as, in order to enter SoftMax Pro GxP, you need to log in. In previous versions, we only had the classical user administration system within GxP admin. But for 7.1, you can connect your users to the Active Directory system. This means you can sign in with your Windows credentials. Please don't mix this up with single sign-on. So this means you always have to enter your username as your password. This does not mean that you're automatically signed in. The benefits of having such an Active Directory system is that it simplifies defining password criteria because they're determined on a company level. But if you don't want to use Active Directory, we have also expanded the password definition criteria for 7.1. Another improvement is the autosave functionality. First of all, we have upgraded the inbuilt autosave functionality, meaning new documents must be saved before they can be modified. So when you click New Document, it immediately asks you for the name and the storage location. This prevents that there are any documents lost or any data. And autosave in this respect now means that the scientist can already predefine the file name as well as the file location in the database. So the lab tech really doesn't need to define anything anymore. All he needs to do is open the document, acquire the data, and sign the statement. We have updated our signing process. This means that on the left side and on the right side of the workflow, only one statement can be signed per user. This means that the lab manager can only sign one statement on the left as well as the right side, preventing double signing. We have also eliminated the need to revoke signatures. We have extended the permission settings to revoke a user's own signature, but we have also remained with the permission to remove other people's signatures in case somebody leaves the company. But it doesn't need to be used because you can always create a copy of the original using the Save As command. So there is no need anymore to revoke somebody else's signature. To simplify project management, we have also defined projects within GxP admin. This means that if you have a team that is working on a specific drug, for instance, you can create a project. And within this project, you're assigning team members. And these team members, you're assigning a role. In the example below, you have user 1, 2, and 3. And these users are assigned roles: scientist, lab technician, and lab manager within this project. Please note that users can have different roles in different projects, but cannot have different roles within the same project. A user can always only be assigned once with a single role to a project. You may change his role within the project, but you cannot have two roles in the project. For our new users, we have massively reduced the time to get started with SoftMax Pro by defining factory roles. These roles we have defined to best of our knowledge, so you can readily start it with SoftMax Pro GxP by basically understanding the workflow and using the shown roles. For our more experienced users, we offer the opportunity to create new roles as well as to modify the factory roles if this is desired. To improve the connectivity to LIMS systems as well as various archiving systems, we have redefined the auto export functionality. As well as for users of the Stegmann software, we have implemented signed XML files to increase data integrity. And these signed XML files can then be imported into the Stegmann software. Further auto export functionalities are the export of PDF documents, CSV, and essentially all the formats you were able to export in previous SoftMax Pro versions. The auto export function always exports a copy of the document out of the database. The original document will always remain within the database in order to maintain its status. New data analysis option in SoftMax Pro 7.1 are the outlier tests. We have added a route outlier test, which enables you to determine outliers based on the curve fit and not individual data points. This has been brought to our attention by a large pharma company who has been noted by the FDA that outlier tests are done on a random and not defined basis. And this provides a statistical mean to exclude outliers in SoftMax Pro. We have also added the capability of doing custom curve fits, adding the last level of complexity by giving you the opportunity to find any curve fit you would like. And we have added graph confidence bands as shown on the right side. Now I would like to introduce you to my colleague Sally, who will explain our complete portfolio of services as well as additional products to you to really stay in compliance with your complete reader system, including the software and the hardware. Thanks, Sally.
Thank you, Tom. So what we're going to look at now is the path to compliance on a microplate reader. In the first year, it begins with the delivery of components. Typically, this includes your microplate reader and SoftMax Pro GxP. GxP software contains everything that's required to set up your plate reader software for FDA 21 CFR Part 11 compliant work. SoftMax Pro GxP can be set up on a standalone computer with or without network access or as a network-based enterprise solution. Our application scientists and technical support team will join you remotely to walk you through the installation on a single computer, joint server, or separate servers. The next step to look at is installation qualification, operational qualification, and preventive maintenance, or IQ, OQ, PM services. The SoftMax Pro validation package provides comprehensive documentation and tools to validate SoftMax Pro software and GxP admin features. The Spectra test ABS1, FL1, LM1, and multimode validation plates provide automated, comprehensive and traceable validation of microplate reader performance for absorbance, fluorescence, luminescence, and other read modes on a daily basis. Modes like time-resolved fluorescence and fluorescence polarization are performed using the multimode plate. And the tests include accuracy, reproducibility, wavelength accuracy, and so on. Our tools perform plate-based assays in a compliance environment at the same time as consistent quality. Day-to-day performance verification using Spectra test plates, annual preventive maintenance visit by our service team, and early plate recertification ensure continued performance of your reader. For further information, please visit moleculardevices.com, where you can find SoftMax Pro GxP installation guide and release notes. Also, FAQs are supported by our field application scientists and technical support teams. Thank you. Now we're going to open the lines up for some questions from the audience.
Thank you, Tom and Sally, for your informative presentations. You will notice a poll question appear on your screens asking if you would like the Molecular Devices team to follow up with you to arrange a personal demonstration. If you like what you have seen today and want to find out more, please click yes. We will now start the live Q&A portion of the webinar. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please do so now. Just click on the Ask a Question box located on the far left of your screen. We'll answer as many questions as we have time for. Now let's get started. Our first question is, can you use SQLite or must it be the full SQL Server version?
Hi, Michelle. Thank you. So, as my colleague Sally showed in the slide before, it certainly is possible to use an SQLite version, but we only recommend that for small labs that use a single computer setup. As soon as you're moving to a joint or separate server setup, we highly recommend to use the SQL standard or enterprise version.
Great, thank you. Our next question is, would you please clarify whether the data integrity features apply to a single computer setup?
Yes. So I'm not entirely sure about the question, so if I don't answer it here correctly, please send me an email afterwards. But the data integrity guideline actually applied to all three setups. So this is independent of the computer setup.
Great, thank you. Is exported data write protected?
This depends on the format. As soon as you're leaving the SQL database, you're obviously within the Windows level and Windows file system. So there, you need to work with your IT department to set the appropriate permissions. What we helped you with is we implemented signed XML files, so they have a checksum. So you can basically immediately see if the file has been tampered with. The Steckman software has the ability to basically check that and to import signed XML files. And we also give you the opportunity to export PDF files.
Great, thank you. All right, your next question is about autosave setting. What is the difference between SoftMax 6 and 7.1?
So the difference is in 6.1, we did not have the workflow system. So the autosave setting is now tightly bound to the workflow. I basically went back to slide 15. So autosave in 7.1 is defined that the scientist can decide if he wants to set it up or not. If he sets up autosave, he can either define the file name and the storage location or either of those. But in general, the scientist basically defines where the file will be saved and under which name. You're able to add either a number, a date, or a time, which will automatically basically be updated in order to differentiate the different files. But as soon as the lab opens up the middle, the green protocol, it will be automatically saved. So this is the meaning of autosave. And what you were used to in the versions before is now called auto export. So on an closing event of the file, if the content of the file changed, a copy of the document will be automatically exported out of the database. And you can essentially define as many locations and as many file formats you want to have exported on a file closure event. This applies to the right side of the workflow.
Great, thank you. All right. Your next question is, will we get a copy of this webinar presentation when completed?
Yes. So what we will provide you for download is a more complete presentation. So this is the obviously presentation version, but we also have a handout version that contains all the information I was now basically verbally communicating to you on the right side. And we want you to get the full version so you can basically read up on everything.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, your next question is, has Molecular Devices consulted EU GMP compliance and not just FDA compliance? For example, EU Annex 11 and 15 MHRA data integrity guidance, or is the system and qualification services only designed to be US and not EU compliant?
So the system has been designed in a way that you can set it up to be compliant with the US system, the EU, and also with the majority of the guidelines in the Asian region, like Japan, China. There are differences, certainly, but most of the differences can be addressed with the permissions as well as the parameters in SoftMax Pro and GxP admin. So the system itself is not compliant. It gives you the opportunity to basically build a compliant system because there are a lot of variables in there, but the system is fully capable of being set up in a compliant way. And as I said, the differences in between the individual regions, they can be fully addressed with this version.
Thank you. Does the software now allow identification of the instrument serial number being used to collect the data?
Very good. I see we have a lot of experienced users here in the audience. So for the newer instruments, we do have the option to actually have that included. For the older instruments, such as the M series, that would require a firmware update. If you absolutely need that, we can refer you to our custom department, but we don't have it in the pipeline currently, but the new readers are capable of doing that, yes.
Great, thank you. All right, your next question is the export function the only way to interact with an LIMS system, or is there an direct integration communication to a LIMS system possible? If we would export and import it always by hand, this would have another review step for each import into LIMS.
I'm gonna have to reread the question here. The export function.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. At this point, we don't have direct way to interact with the LIMS system, as there is pretty large variety of LIMS systems out there. But we are looking into improving this interface. So if whoever asked this question can send me an email, I'm more than happy to include him in the SoftMax Pro Insider program. So I can work with him to basically look at his requirements and see what we can do in one of the future versions for him.
Great. All right, your next question is, with the test plates and the new software, is there an intention to bracket the entire qualified linear range of the instrument?
think for this one we're gonna have to follow up because I'm not sure if Sally, do you?
Yeah, I would agree with you. If the person who asked that question would be kind enough to submit an email to Tom or to myself, then we would be happy to pick up with that because it's about your user requirements more than our standard system.
Great, thank you. All right, your next question is, what about the backup and restoration of SQL database?
So for the single computer setup, we do provide a tool to back up the SQL Express database. For the larger versions like SQL Standard, the IT departments typically already have set up a backup system because we are not the only ones using SQL databases. They're fairly standard, and typically the IT department already has set up a backup tool.
Great, thank you. Your next question is, do you expect a difference between 5.4 and 7.1 in terms of rounding and changing final reportable result?
It is correct there has been a change in rounding, but in general this change is insignificant for most of the time. And if you move from like 5.4 to version 7.1, we anyhow recommend revalidation because not only do we change the storage system from a Windows file-based system to an SQL database, but also there has been so much development in between that we recommend a revalidation for the protocols that are still in use.
Thank you again, Tom and Sally, for your time today and your important research. We would also like to thank Laboroots and our sponsor, Molecular Devices, for underwriting today's educational webcast. Before we go, I'd like to thank the audience for joining us today and for their interesting questions. Questions we did not have time for today, and those submitted during the on-demand period, will be addressed by the speakers via the contact information you provided at the time of registration. Laboroots will alert you via email when it's available for replay, and we encourage you to share that email with your colleagues who may have missed today's live event. Until next time, goodbye.